We're coming on the air with the small towns picking up the pieces tonight, with thousands bracing for more dangerous weather as new tornado sirens go off across the Midwest. We're live on the ground. We're also watching the start of what could be a record travel weekend as millions hit the roads and the airports. We'll tell you why it's not just the number of travelers, but also the prices that are high. Then in tonight's original, we'll hear from the families of two ROTC cadets who died during service, why they say they're not getting the help thousands of other families get to help pay for funerals for their loved ones. Plus, our reporter sits down with the cast of a groundbreaking show that shook up what primetime TV is all about. They reflect on their impact 30 years later. And a potential make-or-break weekend to kick off blockbuster season. Will it be another Barbenheimer summer? We'll take a look later in the show. Hey, I'm Christine in for Hallie. And tonight, the unofficial start to summer is being welcomed in with dangerous weather in the Midwest and the South. Strong tornadoes like this one in West Texas are possible tonight and into the weekend as this powerful line of storms hitting that area makes its way east. This is the scene in southeastern Oklahoma as what looks like another tornado hit that area just yesterday. And that's the eerie sound of tornado sirens going off in Omaha, Nebraska early this morning. It's been a pretty brutal week of weather with multiple tornadoes reported every single day since Sunday, with places like Iowa hit again and again by vicious storms that have left behind this trail of disaster. Over 12,000 people there still without power tonight as more severe weather sweeps that area. We've got Maggie Vespa in Davenport, Iowa. Maggie, you were in Illinois where people are picking up after tornadoes hit there, too. What are you hearing and seeing?
Yeah, so that's about 15, 20 minutes from here. It's in a town called Milan, and we pulled up there after hearing about another reported tornado, right? Like it just keeps hitting parts of the Midwest and the Great Plains. So this was the latest one. Several buildings torn apart, people shaken, saying they didn't think it was going to be that bad. They had seen this hitting all over the country. They can't believe it hit here. I mean, things that we've been hearing for more than a month at this point. But the story that really hit us was from a 10-year-old named Michael. My producer spotted him picking up debris on a lawn with his 2-year-old brother in his lap. And his mom told us, yeah, he actually called me from the school bus crying this morning because he could see the twister out the window. Take a listen.
You were on the school bus and you saw the tornado?
Yes, I saw it getting ready to come touch the ground.
How did you feel when you saw that?
Nervous and scared.
It's hard as a mom to hear your baby cry and say, Mom, I seen a tornado or something, even if it's not a tornado, even if it's something, horrible, you just want to be there for your baby.
And you couldn't get to him.
And I couldn't get to him, and that's the worst feeling ever a parent can ever imagine having.
Yeah, that whole family was shaken. Michael was so stoic, though. I mean, you could see it when he was talking to us. And I said, what did you think? We talked more about what he thought when he saw it. And he said, well, I remember my teacher reading us a book about the deadly Joplin tornado more than a decade ago. And he said, I just thought about that. And then he told me he knew about EF ratings. He was trying to think of what this one might be. Yeah. He's very aware of the threat that tornadoes pose. And now that family will never forget this day.
Yeah, kids like Michael, they drill for that in schools. I grew up right there in the Quad Cities. They drill for that. So these kids know that it's just a fact of life there in the Midwest. Iowa's Governor Maggie just announced today that the president has approved Iowa's request for a major disaster declaration in affected areas.
Yes.
How will that fast track recovery, I guess?
Yeah, we heard about that a lot yesterday in Greenfield, and that's where we've been spending most of our week, as you know. I mean, that was the town that was just obliterated by what we now know was an EF4 tornado, winds up to 200 miles per hour. It is flattened, largely. So what this is going to mean is effectively it cuts through FEMA red tape. I mean, that's the simplest way to put it. People who now apply for FEMA funding, the uninsured, the underinsured who apply for money to help rebuild, we were told by FEMA's administrator yesterday they will just get it faster. And she said once this is approved, which has now happened, when people who qualify apply, they could literally get the money within days. And those people, as we know, Christine, need that desperately. So that is a bit of good news.
All right, Maggie, thanks so much. Thanks for that reporting. Bill Cairns joins me now with the forecast. Bill, how are things shaping up for the weekend?
Very stormy, maybe even dangerously stormy, especially as we go throughout Saturday and Sunday. But we have to get through tonight first. Of course, today's the big getaway day, and we still have severe storms out there. We're not having the tornado risk like the last couple of days. We may have one or two isolated tornadoes, but we do have a severe thunderstorm watch that covers the St. Louis area and now Dallas-Fort Worth all the way to Waco up to Fort Smith, Arkansas is in a severe thunderstorm watch. Huge hail is possible later on this afternoon, this evening, maybe even up to tennis ball size. And these watches go till about 9 or 10 o'clock. We'd like them to have missed the airports also, obviously with so many people flying. So here's Springfield, Illinois. There's St. Louis. St. Louis, you're okay right now. There are some storms out to your west that'll drift your way in about an hour or so. Anyone driving Interstate 55 or 72 in central Illinois, it's not a fun drive with those storms around. We have been watching a severe thunderstorm over the top of Little Rock, so airport delays there going on currently. Anyone driving east out of town on Interstate 40, you're going to be in the midst of this, probably with some quarter to dime size hail. And further to the south, we've been watching these storms. Here's Dallas, there's Fort Worth. To the south of you, heading down Interstate 35 is where some of the worst of the storms are currently. So for the rest of this evening, we're going to watch this area where I just showed you those watches. And then tomorrow, it's going to get worse, unfortunately. So today, the big threat is hail. Tomorrow, possible tornadoes, maybe even those really strong, violent tornadoes that can destroy a town if they hit one. If they're out over an open field, nothing will happen. Just like we had one yesterday like that. It's just a matter of, if they hit anything or not. This big red, you don't like to see that. This is a level 4 out of 5 for Saturday afternoon and evening. Oklahoma City up to Wichita and Interstate 35. Tulsa is included in this too. And then by the time we get to Sunday, we're going to track this to the east. This hatched lines here, that's the areas that had the best chance of seeing a strong, violent tornado, maybe even a couple of them. And then on Sunday, St. Louis, Indianapolis, heading down the Ohio River into Cincinnati. These are the areas at best risk, and we could see additional strong tornadoes on Sunday. Not a fun forecast over the weekend, heading in the Central Plains and then into the middle of the country. So the big wrap-up of the whole forecast, scattered showers on Saturday in the Ohio Valley. Saturday's kind of a decent day for everyone traveling. Saturday night's when that severe weather outbreak starts. Sunday, it heads into the southern Great Lakes in the Ohio Valley. And then by Monday, Christine, the East Coast kind of gets some of that messy weather. Not severe, but Monday is definitely not a beach day in the Northeast.
Yeah, but a travel day maybe for a lot of people if they're flying. So hopefully things won't be too snarled. Bill, thank you so much. That bad weather doesn't look like it's going to stop the almost 44 million people expected to leave town for the Memorial Day weekend. They may have a few setbacks, though. That's because summer travel is having a big-time rebound. We're talking close to records that haven't been matched for almost 20 years. Most of those travelers are going to be hitting the roads, with more than 87% planning to drive to their holiday weekend destination. You can expect roads to be jam-packed, folks, with more than 38 million people driving this weekend and another 3.5 million traveling by plane. Antonia Hilton joins me now from nearby the New Jersey Turnpike in Secaucus. Antonia, what do you hear from people as they head out for the long weekend?
Hey, Christine. Well, people are a mix of exhausted and frustrated, but also they aren't frankly surprised. They expected to be sitting for hours in the traffic you see behind me here on the Turnpike. They've also been coming into this rest stop to get snacks, to take their kids to use the restroom, and in some cases to try to circumvent a chunk of the traffic here on the road. And, what they're hearing is the exact same thing we're seeing in the data, that there is this rebound in the years after the pandemic now. About 80% of the tens of millions of travelers are choosing to drive to different destinations, whether that's Jersey Beach in this area. Orlando, Florida is a majorly popular one. People are really looking, according to experts, for theme parks and centers of entertainment to spend time with their families. Take a listen to one of the travelers I met today.
My hopes for this weekend is that we can just get to places on time. I live in New Jersey, so I'm used to traffic, but I'm just hoping it doesn't get horrible.
How's the traffic looking to you?
Terrible. It's pretty bad. It's just been waiting hours. The time keeps going up. It's pretty bad.
And the other thing they frankly have to take into account is the cost here for this travel. So for drivers, they should know gas is averaging right now around $3.61 a gallon. That's 7 cents higher than last year. And so some of the folks we've spoken to say that they've had to text with their friends and coordinate who's paying for what, and just make sure that they plan all that in advance before they sit potentially for hours in traffic. Christine.
Yeah, still there's that travel YOLO. You only live once, right? The numbers are telling us that not only are we back to pre-pandemic levels, but actually higher. And all of this could, I guess, just be a preview of what airlines can expect for the summer, right?
That's right. And in fact, if you are headed to the airport tonight or early tomorrow, expect crowds there too. Try to add in some time. Pad the time that you and your family plan to take off, because they are seeing levels of crowds unlike anything that we haven't seen since 2005. It's almost 20 years ago. On top of that, airlines are dealing with difficulty getting air traffic controllers. There are strikes at airports like in Charlotte. So make sure that you check in with the airports. You look at estimates before you go.
All right, Antonia, thank you so much for that. Right, just in the last couple hours, Hunter Biden heading out of a federal court in Delaware after getting a partial win from a judge who ruled out some pretty salacious evidence from being included in his upcoming trial on federal gun charges. The judge also saying that other details Hunter Biden didn't want in, well, those are fair game. Today's hearing setting up a trial that could still air unflattering and, frankly, embarrassing details about the president's son's past struggles with substance abuse. Remember, Hunter Biden was recharged last year by the special counsel who took over the case. Prosecutors say he lied about his drug use on a form while buying a handgun. The gun trial is set to start June 3rd, but he also faces a separate federal tax case in California on charges he failed to pay his taxes over multiple years. NBC's Ken Delanian is outside that courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware. So, Ken, based on the judge's rulings today, what can you tell us about what this trial might look like when it kicks off a little more than a week from now?
Hey, Christine. Well, the judge made clear she expects a 2-week trial. The government said they intend to call 12 witnesses. It's unclear, obviously, at this moment whether Hunter Biden will testify and what kind of case the defense will put on. Today's hearing was a last-ditch attempt to clear up what evidence can and can't be presented in front of the jury. There's some disputes about what evidence should be relevant. And the judge essentially granted each side most of what they were seeking. So, for example, the government is allowed to put on some evidence from Hunter Biden's memoir. They're allowed to use excerpts from all that electronic evidence that was on his infamous laptop and other electronic devices. And that includes thousands of text messages, including with apparent drug dealers and photos and all kinds of evidence there. But they are not allowed to explicitly refer to his quote-unquote extravagant lifestyle, although they are allowed to talk about his drug use. The defense successfully got exclusions on any reference to the California tax case, to his child support battle that's happening in Arkansas, and to the fact that he was discharged from the Navy after testing positive for cocaine. So it's a bit of a draw in terms of what testimony can come on. But again, big picture here, these are very serious charges that stem from the collapse of a plea deal. And so Hunter Biden is now facing 2 separate felony trials where at one point he was ready to plead guilty to a misdemeanor and serve no jail time.
Yeah. Now, Hunter and his legal team often say that there wouldn't be 2 federal cases against him, Ken, if his last name weren't Biden. At the end of the day, how much real trouble is Hunter in between the 2 sets of charges against him?
It's serious, and, you know, they may have a point there, but it's also true that there wouldn't be these 2 federal cases if they had just come to an agreement on that plea deal, which a lot of people thought was very favorable to Hunter Biden. No jail time, misdemeanor. And remember, his lawyers decided that there weren't enough guarantees there against possible future prosecutions. But guess what? There aren't any guarantees now, and he's facing, look, there's, in this gun case, the maximum penalty, this will not be the sentence if convicted, but the maximum theoretical penalty, 25 years in prison and 17 years in prison in the tax case. And even if it's 1 year in federal prison and 1 felony conviction, that is a very serious thing for the son of a president. And so he's in very big trouble here after a situation where he could have really sort of walked away with very little trouble. Christine.
Fascinating. Ken Delanian, thanks so much for that. A gang attack in Haiti's capital, leaving an American missionary couple dead, including a woman who was the daughter of a Missouri state lawmaker. The Haitian director of the group they worked for was also killed. Missions in Haiti says the couple seen here and the group's director were killed during a confrontation with gang members that suddenly turned violent. The group confirming the deaths in a Facebook post, saying the group was, quote, devastated. NBC News has not independently confirmed its account of what happened, but missionaries and other foreigners have been frequent targets of those gangs that have all but control the capital of Port-au-Prince. The latest killings coming just days before the expected arrival of more than 1,000 Kenyan police officers on an American-backed mission to take back the country from gang control. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez is following this for us. Just a terrible story. You spoke to the mother of one of the victims. What is she saying? What more can you tell us?
Yeah, Christine, I just spoke with her a short time ago, and she really gave us some harrowing details of what happened to her son, Davy Lloyd. And some of those details are hard to listen to, Christine. Apparently yesterday, she actually got a phone call. She picked up her phone from her son, who had already been beaten, she says, by one of those armed gangs that showed up at this compound. Now, this charity, this nonprofit that she founded more than 20 years ago, along with her husband, her son, and his wife, Natalie, which you see right there. They were working at this compound along with another Haitian colleague. Apparently, an armed gang, she says, came to the compound, beat him. They then let him go. They took a lot of their supplies. And then, she says, after the phone call, a second armed gang showed up, and then things got dramatically worse. The building they were in, that second armed gang, she says, came in, shot her son and his wife and their Haitian colleague, and then set the building on fire, Christine. Now, we're just also learning details of this from other family members who have posted on social media, and it's just, the details of this are just harrowing. We sometimes hear of Americans caught in the crossfire in Haiti, but this story with these American missionaries is just very difficult to hear.
It really is. And Kenyan forces could land in Port-au-Prince any day now. What does this attack say, I guess, about what those officers will be up against when they arrive?
Well, certainly. And look, this is the Kenyan forces. It's they're leading a multinational force, part of a broader effort by the UN. But 1,000 police officers are supposed to arrive in Haiti. They were expected to arrive by the end of this week. That has not happened. But we hear from the Biden administration that that is expected to happen soon, and that they've already procured several pieces of equipment, including armored vehicles and radios. But those police forces are supposed to go into Haiti and to try and stabilize the country. The Kenya's president was here in the U.S. for a state visit, just leaving today, trying to talk with U.S. officials. And President Biden specifically reiterated that there would be no American troops on the ground. But right now, there are a lot of questions about how this Kenyan-led force can be able to go up against these armed gangs, Christine.
You know, Gabe, I know you've been to Haiti many times. I've covered the country before over the years. I don't remember a level of lawlessness like this.
Which is saying something. It is saying something. About 80% of the capital of Port-au-Prince is right now under the control of these armed gangs. Just until a few days ago, the international airport in Port-au-Prince was shut down. And people that have been watching Haiti for quite some time, really, I mean, it's for decades, they've had issues with violence in that country. And, you know, back in the 90s, when the American forces went in to try and keep the peace, then UN peacekeepers came in the 2000s and all the way up until 2017. Following that horrific earthquake. Now there are questions following the assassination of the country's president. Where will this end? When will it end? And will the gangs give up control now that they've had such that they control such a large part of the capital city? And will these forces led by Kenya really make a dent in this, Christine?
We'll be watching. Gabe Gutierrez, thank you so much for that. All right, tonight, Israel weighing the next steps after another world court ordered the country to stand down its assault on the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Here's that moment from the UN's top court earlier today.
Israel must immediately halt its military offensive and any other action in the Rafah governorate which may inflict on the Palestinian group in Gaza conditions of life that could bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part.
Israel's PM meeting with his legal advisors earlier today after the International Court of Justice's ruling came down. Rafah's become the focal point of this war now, with Israel calling it Hamas's last stronghold and observers fearing for the hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians still in harm's way there. The ICJ has no way to enforce the ruling, and frankly, Israel is expected to basically ignore it. But today's order is just the latest international condemnation of the offensive in Gaza, with a warning from President Biden and arrest warrants sought by a different court, so far having no impact on the Rafah assault. NBC's Raf Sanchez has more from Tel Aviv.
Today's ruling by the International Court of Justice that Israel must halt its military offensive in Rafah is final and it is binding. So technically, Israel, if it does not comply, is breaching international law. But the court has no enforcement mechanism. That would fall to the UN Security Council, and Israel is hoping that the United States would shield Israel from any international action at that forum. Now, just as that ruling was being read out at the court in The Hague in the Netherlands a little after 9 a.m. Eastern, our team in Gaza says Israeli airstrikes were pounding the Al-Shabura refugee camp, which just underscores that there is not a whole lot of optimism inside Gaza or outside that this ruling will actually impact the war on the ground. In terms of potentially a little legal wiggle room, Israel has been ordered by the court to submit a report 1 month from now explaining how it is complying with today's ruling. Some in Israel feel that as long as the Rafah operation is wrapped up by the time that report is submitted, Israel can say that it is complying, even though the judge was very explicit today that this offensive must end immediately. Israel also saying it has recovered the bodies of 3 hostages from northern Gaza. That's a total of 7 hostage bodies recovered over the last week. One of those found overnight. So Ryan Hernandez, he is was a 30-year-old French-Mexican dual national, and the body of his girlfriend, Shani Luke, was found last week. The two of them were at that Supernova music festival when they were killed. Meanwhile, CIA Director Bill Burns in Europe meeting with the head of the Mossad spy agency as well as the Prime Minister of Qatar. And the hope is that he can revive these badly stalled ceasefire negotiations. But frankly, there is not a whole lot of optimism that these talks, which have not produced a ceasefire, which have not got any hostages out since November, will see a breakthrough now. Back to you.
All right, our thanks to Raf Sanchez for that reporting. Coming up, the groundbreaking new deal that's changing the game for current and former college athletes. Plus, the Memorial Day sales are on, but is inflation going to hold back shoppers from a spree? We'll break it down next. The super rare sweet treat that's also bringing some pretty shocking sticker shock. We'll show it to you in our 5 things. But first, the game has changed, literally, in college sports with a groundbreaking multi-billion-dollar agreement that will let schools directly pay athletes for the first time ever. There's basically 2 tracks from this settlement, so let's break it down. The first gives billions of dollars in back pay to tens of thousands of athletes who played starting in 2016. Most of that will go to football and men's basketball players. But the second part is what's going to upend the college sports model, a revenue-sharing deal set to go into effect next year that lets each school split up to $21 million annually among all students, all athletes. In a joint statement, the NCAA and the 5 major conferences say this is a big step to provide clarity across college athletics. Steve Patterson joins me now. Steve, a judge still has to sign off on this, right? But given there's no sign the judge won't, talk us through how monumental this is.
Yeah, still much work to be done, on this. But yeah, we should not say that this isn't one of the biggest things that could possibly happen to college athletics. This is humongous. This is monumental, absolutely. Even if it was just the back pay that was decided, that's already precedent-setting. But to have the revenue sharing work into a model that takes this game, takes this whole system, which has been in place since the early 1900s, as an amateur farm system into something that is professional, where you have athletes that have been making money for these universities for generations, now directly getting paid. It is so big. I think a lot, of course, has to be worked out. Obviously, the judge still has to sign off on it. I think Title IX is going to be a big part of this as well, deciding who gets what. But, I mean, for now, this announcement, it really is tremendous. We actually have a statement from the House versus the NCAA. This is the plaintiff's attorney. He says, quote, "Our clients are on the bedrock of the NCAA's multi-billion-dollar business and finally can be compensated in an equitable and just manner for their extraordinary athletic talents." think right now, Christine, that says it all.
Yeah.
Back to you.
There's already been some changes, right? This is different from the name, image, and likeness payments that we've talked a lot about on this program. But at the end of the day, it's still the big name sports, I think, like football and men's basketball that'll drive the whole thing. Is that possible?
So it's possible, yes. I mean, this is the part that is so muddy and messy and will be probably for at least the next couple months, but maybe even years, because there is no decision that comes with this court decision on how this is going to get distributed, right? So all we know basically is essentially the NCAA has agreed that they're going to take the average revenue of the Power 5 conferences, which is about $100 million, and take 20% of that. How they arrived at that number is calculus and math that I'm not privy to, but essentially that boils down to $20 million every year per team. How that money gets distributed, we just don't know yet. I mean, so does Title IX factor in? How does it factor in? Would that mean then that if you have men's and women's sports, is it 10 million and 10 million? Does this mean, as you mentioned, does, men's basketball and men's football, do they get a larger cut of the pie, so to speak, over things like the golf club and water polo and gymnastics? Do those programs then go away completely at some universities that are trying to decide if they're going to be competitive in college football, which brings in the most revenue? None of this is decided. It is per school until further notice. And so I think a lot of this, of course, will be decided in court. Others will get worked out between each school. It's just going to be a mess, I think, for a while, until everybody kind of comes to an agreement on what this should look like with how huge this sea change is.
Yeah, a lot of work to do. They have to figure out a formula for how to pay and compensate the athletes. And then I think small colleges and large colleges will have different calculus as well for which programs to keep, which ones to highlight. Steve Patterson will be covering this, I know. Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
Thanks.
Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Russia's spy chief saying today more than 20 people have been arrested over that deadly concert hall attack near Moscow back in March. More than 140 people were killed. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attack. Russia's spy chief blames Ukraine for it, something Ukraine denies. But the spy chief also says ISIS coordinated the actual attack, according to Russian media. Number 2, hundreds of people are feared dead after a massive landslide in Papua New Guinea. Villagers in the remote area where it happened say dozens of homes, look at that, were just covered, and families were buried alive. You can see people making their way through the rubble. Emergency response crews are heading to the area to help. Number 3, documentary filmmaker Morgan Spurlock has died from complications from cancer. You'll remember him from the Oscar-nominated film Super Size Me, where he only ate McDonald's for a month to raise awareness about the dangers of poor nutrition. He was behind a whole range of projects, though, like the doc Where in the World is Osama bin Laden and a One Direction concert film. He was 53. Number 4, take a look at this. Workers installing a huge cross on the roof of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. It's nearly 40 feet tall. It's the only part of the roof that didn't burn in that horrible 2019 fire. The church is expected to reopen this December. Number 5, given a new meaning to seeing red, super rare red pineapples are here. Well, at one Southern California store at least. Ruby Glow pineapples is what they're called. They're red on the outside, yellow on the inside. It took like 16 years of research to make this beauty. Only 5,000 are going to be available worldwide this year. That California store already sold out, and guess what? They charge nearly $400 each. All right, we're here. The unofficial kickoff to summer with lots of people planning cookouts and stores pushing holiday sales. But inflation is keeping some people on a tighter budget this holiday weekend, with recent surveys showing more than half of consumers don't plan to spend more than $100 on food and drinks for cookouts this weekend. Brian Chung is here to break it all down for us. Brian, walk us through some of the facts and figures, what people are expected to spend this weekend, and what are some ways to save, Brian?
Hey, Christine, well, it is the unofficial start to summer, and a lot of people are going to be buying stuff for the cookout. But, of course, with inflation pinching wallets, it's important to remember prices have changed pretty dramatically for some categories, like, for example, ground beef. Check this out, up 6% compared to this time last year. So some potential substitutes. Well, fish and seafood prices have gone down over 2% over that period of time, and chicken prices are up only 0.7%, another potential substitute there. Cookies are going to get a little bit cheaper compared to this time last year, down 0.3%. But alcohol, if people are trying to get some kegs, for example, that's going to be up almost 2% compared to last year. And if anyone's trying to go to a baseball game this weekend, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Check this out. On average, up over 15%. Now, of course, this is also a holiday for a lot of sales out there for people just trying to do some shopping. A number of stores advertising 70% off at Kohl's, 25% off headphones at Amazon, 50% off patio garden sets at Target. Walmart, you're seeing discounts on camera sets in addition to 60% off outdoor furniture at Macy's. So there's deals across the board for this Memorial Day weekend. But again, you have to be strategic to make sure you're getting the best deal out there.
Absolutely. And we need to talk about the true meaning of the holiday, though. It's not consumerism. It's honoring men and women in the military who lost their lives serving this country. You have some numbers to share with us about that, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Christine. Again, people are going to be cooking out. They're going to be buying stuff. But again, the point of this holiday is remembrance for our troops. It was really formalized in the 1800s to honor the 20,000 Civil War soldiers that are buried at Arlington National Cemetery. It was officially recognized as a federal holiday 53 years ago. There are 5.3 million people buried across our national cemeteries in this country, including the largest one, which is in California, over 1,200 acres there. And again, one big number I've got for you here, over 2 million current military members. Again, we're celebrating those that are protecting our country in addition to those who have lost their lives protecting our country. Something really important to remember on this Memorial Day, Christine.
Absolutely critical context, as always. Brian Chung, thank you so much. Coming up, why an American facing a 12-year sentence in Turks and Caicos is coming home a lot sooner than many expected. Plus, in our original tonight, the group left out of death benefits from the military and the new push to change that. NBC covers hundreds of stories each day, and because it's tough to read, watch, or listen to all of them, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Western Bureau, part of a Southern California freeway has reopened after an hours-long SWAT standoff shut it down. This was the scene on the 91 freeway in Anaheim this morning. You can see the suspect's blue car in between two armored police vehicles. It all started after the armed suspect stopped in the middle of a police pursuit. The driver was pulled from the car. We are awaiting an update on their condition. From our Southern Bureau, stunning video of a South Florida police officer saving people trapped in a burning car. You can see it here. The scene looks like chaos. The video shows this officer running toward the car, just engulfed in flames after a crash. He stays calm, uses a fire extinguisher that a witness had already been using. Police say everyone who was in that car is in stable condition. And out of our Washington, D.C. Bureau, the little cherry tree that could, the iconic Stumpy, was removed today from the tidal basin. The National Park Service warned us a couple of months ago this day could come. Visitors have been leaving flowers next to that cherry tree. Others made TikTok say goodbye to it. Over 100 trees were removed from the seawall earlier today. And now that's all that's left of Stumpy is an actual stump. All right, relief tonight for an American tourist arrested in Turks and Caicos for bringing bullets in his luggage. A judge there deciding that Brian Hagerich will not face jail time. Instead, he was ordered to pay a $6,700 fine. Remember, Hagerich was detained back in February for having ammunition in his luggage. He said he accidentally left it in the bag after a hunting trip. He was facing a possible sentence of 12 months in prison. 4 other Americans are awaiting sentencing on similar charges. Priscilla Thompson is joining me now. Priscilla, they have very strict gun and ammunition laws in Turks and Caicos here. That's what's behind all of this. What's the reaction to the sentence, and what explanation did the judge give when announcing the decision?
Yeah, well, the leaders of Turks and Caicos are saying that this sentence was fair given the exceptional circumstances, and those are some of the circumstances that the judge laid out when sentencing Hagerich, including that he says that this was an accident, that he had no prior criminal history, and also the impact that this might have on his 5-year-old daughter. And our producer was on the ground there as he and his wife exited the court after it was announced that he would be able to pay a fine and leave the country. And I want to play for you some of their reaction after that judgment came down.
Absolutely elated. Can't wait to get home. I have 2 kids that just can't wait to jump into our arms. It's the best day of my...
feeling like in court? I mean, just walking through the end of it.
Overwhelming. Overwhelming. Just joy. This is what we've been waiting for the last 101 days.
And instead of that 12-year minimum sentence, he ended up getting a suspended year-long sentence that does not have to be served in jail. And he also got a $6,700 fine, which once he paid that fine, he was able to leave the country. And we are told that he is now on his way back to the United States to be reunited with his kids and spend some time with his family after more than 3 months in Turks and Caicos.
So I know, Priscilla, there are 4 other American tourists in Turks and Caicos awaiting their sentences on similar charges. These other cases of people who say they mistakenly had ammunition in their bag. It is illegal to bring it into the country. What could this mean for them?
Yeah, well, this could certainly set the tone for those sentencing proceedings, and that's definitely what these folks are hoping for. There were 2 of those people who were actually in court with Hagerich today. They've all been staying in an Airbnb on the island together, and both of them very emotional today, saying that they were grateful, they were thankful for what they saw, and that they are now hopeful for what their sentencings could look like. And we know that in the coming days, in fact, before next Tuesday, another American is expected to be sentenced, and a number of them also have hearings coming up as they continue on in this process. Christine.
All right, Priscilla Thompson, thank you so much for that. To tonight's original now, with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. Families of active duty military members lost in the line of duty. They are given death benefits like funds to help pay for the funeral. But the program leaves out one group. The more than 20,000 young men and women enrolled in ROTC programs at colleges across the country. NBC's Ali Vitale spoke with the families of fallen cadets and trainees on how they're trying to change that.
Jessica Swan's daughter, Mackenzie, felt like her miracle baby.
She was an amazing person. She's kind, loves science. She wanted to be a scientist her whole life.
In high school, Mackenzie joined the Reserve Officer Training Corps, or ROTC.
She had a phenomenal experience in high school, so she continued that in college.
On a cadet development exercise in June 2022, Mackenzie got into a Humvee with fellow cadets.
Basically said, go have fun.
The driver was not trained. Going over the speed limit, the vehicle spun, then flipped, killing Mackenzie.
You're living every parent's worst nightmare, and then adding to it immense financial strain.
Expenses piled up, burial cost, missed work, legal proceedings are still ongoing. Jessica lost the home she'd been renting.
So there we were on the 1-year anniversary of her death, just like scrambling, trying to find any resemblance of consistency, of stability.
Families of active duty service members lost in the line of duty receive a death gratuity of $100,000. Families of ROTC cadets, like Jessica, get nothing. Manny Vega's been on a mission to change that. A Marine veteran himself, Manny's 21-year-old son, Patrick, dreamed of serving. He died 10 days into basic training from, the family says, complications of the common cold and poor medical care.
As a service-disabled veteran who carries a medal that says heroism, to have the Marine Corps fail my son, because they failed my son, and to fail his family, I'm very conflicted. It's very painful. And just the coldness of the culture is what really upsetting.
Patrick died at boot camp, so the Vegas got their death gratuity, unlike Jessica. The coverage gaps moved Manny to turn grief into action, starting Save Our Service members, pushing for policy change and supporting other families who suffered losses like his.
What was it like finding the community that Manny was able to build?
It's been life-saving.
As a Marine, you're taught to take care of your own. You never don't leave anybody behind.
Democratic Congressman Salud Carbajal was taught the same and served with Vega.
This is something that you are keenly aware of from a policy perspective, but also from a personal perspective, right?
Absolutely.
He teamed up with fellow veteran Republican Michael Waltz.
He, once upon a time, also served in the ROTC program. I served in the delayed entry program. We know personally what these gaps can do in terms of not provide to the families of those service members who die in service and sacrifice what it does to their families.
We're facing a recruiting crisis, as we're facing a retention crisis. If families find out that they're not covered, oh, wait a minute, my son or daughter is about to go jump out of planes, but they don't get the types of benefits that every other military member does.
The lawmakers' bill, included in an annual national defense package that's not yet passed Congress, would partly correct the oversight. authorizing payment of a death gratuity and providing casualty assistance to families of ROTC cadets that die in sanctioned training events.
What does it feel like knowing that changes are coming, hopefully?
I feel like she didn't die in vain if it helps somebody else.
What's it going to feel like to get to call Manny and say, we got this done?
It's going to be very meaningful to me.
I'm so grateful to those families for sharing those stories, all in the name of policy change for the better. Here in Congress, the push is ongoing to have broader benefits applied to a wider group of military service members who are lost in the line of duty, to make sure their families have access to those benefits. The goal right now is to do it in this National Defense Authorization Package, but both lawmakers involved in this fight right now say to them it underscores the need to have more veterans serving in this body. Back to you.
All right. Thanks to Hallie Vitale for that reporting. We are coming on the air with small towns picking up the pieces tonight, with thousands bracing for more dangerous weather. As new tornado sirens go off across the Midwest, we're live on the ground. We're also watching the start of what could be a record travel weekend as millions hit the roads and the airports. Why, it's not just the number of travelers, but also the prices that are high. Then, new details from the federal court where President Biden's son may end up next week for his gun trial, what we're learning about the evidence in that case. Plus, the American missionaries killed in Haiti after a gang attack, how it fits into the big picture of violence in that country. And the groundbreaking settlement that could change college sports for good, the money athletes can now get from their schools. That's later in the show. Hey, I'm Christine, in for Hallie tonight. And tonight, the unofficial start to summer is being welcomed with dangerous weather in the Midwest and South. Strong tornadoes like this one in West Texas are possible tonight into the weekend as a powerful line of storms hitting that area makes its way east. This is the scene in southeastern Oklahoma as what looks like another tornado hit that area just yesterday. And that's the eerie sound of tornado sirens going off in Omaha, Nebraska earlier this morning. It's been a pretty brutal week of weather with multiple tornadoes reported every day since Sunday, with places like Iowa hit again and again by vicious storms. Storms that have left behind this trail of disaster. Over 12,000 people there are still without power tonight as more severe weather sweeps the area. We've got Maggie Vespa in Davenport, Iowa for us. And Maggie, earlier today you were out in Illinois, an area that was badly hit by severe weather too. What's the extent of the damage there?
Right. So essentially, people there feel really lucky because they, like everybody else, like us, we've been watching this destruction play out day after day, week after week. They've seen the destruction in Greenfield, Iowa, where we've been pretty much throughout the week. And that's the one that was, you know, I hate to say it, but leveled by that EF4 tornado. Today in Milan, Illinois, where we were, basically, it seems like a smaller tornado went through. A few buildings were damaged, but no one was hurt. No homes were destroyed, which is huge. And people there say, so comparatively, they feel really lucky, but they also feel really shaken. Case in point, 10-year-old Michael, a little boy who my producer saw kind of picking up debris with his 2-year-old brother after, his mom tells us, he saw the twister from his school bus this morning, and then he called her crying. Take a listen.
You were on the school bus and you saw the tornado?
Yes, I saw it getting ready to come touch the ground.
How did you feel when you saw that?
Nervous and scared.
It's hard as a mom to hear your baby cry and say, Mom, I seen a tornado or something, even if it's not a tornado, or even if it's something, you know, horrible, you know, you just want to be there for your baby.
And you couldn't get to him.
And I couldn't get to him, and that's the worst feeling ever a parent can ever imagine having.
Yeah, she teared up pretty quickly talking about that. You know, Christine, in the last hour, you and I were talking about, you're from the Quad Cities, I'm from Illinois. We spent our childhoods training, doing tornado drills in school. But you also, like, as a kid, you have so many memories of watches and warnings happening. You go down to the basement when there's a warning, you wait it out, and, you know, 1,000 times over, nothing happens. And that's what this kid was thinking was going to happen today with these storms. And then lo and behold, he sees one, and he said he was just really shaken. He'd never seen one before. He'd read about them, but you could tell it hit him as it would anyone, and he's 10.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing, too, is like, you know, you drill for these things, but 6 days in a row of tornado sirens in your town, I mean, this is a little more intense. You've been covering all week around the Midwest, covering these recent storms. You've seen what's been left behind in some of these communities. Is there anything that really stood out to you over the past few days, Maggie?
I mean, the fact that, again, we've lived through this. We've grown up here. People who are from here, people who have been through so many watches and warnings throughout their lives, time and time again, they're thrown by not just the tornadoes that have hit their towns, but by this streak, by this rapid succession. Throughout this month, we're now more than 3 weeks into May, we've only had 2 days without tornado warnings reported. We've had close to 900 tornado warnings so far this year, making it the third most active year on record, and the 350 of those, so more than a third of those, they've happened just this month. So we have seasoned Midwesterners who are used to this or used to seeing it nearby, rattled by, again, not just what they've been through, but knowing this is part of a really striking pattern, and that's really stuck out to us.
I know the Iowa governor announced today the president has approved Iowa's request for a major disaster declaration. How will that help fast-track recovery?
I know we talk about terms like this. I mean, what it basically does is it cuts through a lot of the red tape when it comes to people getting the money they need from FEMA. FEMA personal disaster relief funds, those go to mainly the uninsured and the underinsured. So now that this has happened, FEMA's administrator told us yesterday when people apply who qualify for this money from FEMA to help rebuild their own homes, they can now get that money incredibly fast, way faster than they would have otherwise. She said it could be in their accounts within days, Christine. So that's huge.
That is huge. All right. There's going to be a lot of work to do. So they'll need that money. Maggie, thank you so much. Bill Cairns joins me now with the forecast. Bill, how are things shaping up for the weekend?
Stormy, maybe even violent. Unfortunately, another tornado outbreak is possible Saturday night into Sunday. And so you have to have your weekend plans, but also have an eye on the weather, especially when people go into areas and that they're not, it's not their homes. If they're on vacation, you have to pay attention and know where to get shelter. So we already this evening for about over 1,000 miles, central Texas and central Illinois, severe thunderstorm watch. This means large hail, wind damage possible, isolated tornadoes. I do not anticipate any tornado outbreaks today. Doesn't mean we can't have one or two. So far, some of the worst weather has been in Illinois. We have a lot of flash flooding taking place. This is about an hour north of St. Louis. So here's the Springfield area. Earlier this morning, by the way, we did have numerous tornadoes reported near the Quad Cities. That was like at 8 to 9 a.m. this morning. Now we're mostly just watching strong thunderstorms. Anyone driving here in this region. Chicago, it looks like another line of storms will go through. Probably have about a half-hour ground stop at O'Hare when these go through. That'll roughly be about a half hour to 45 minutes from now. Same will go for Milwaukee, too. And then further to the south, this is areas just south of Dallas and Fort Worth. We've been watching this developing thunderstorm south of Weatherford on Interstate 30. This will try to drift over towards the Fort Worth area in roughly about 15 to 30 minutes. And anyone driving here to the south of Dallas, there's been numerous storms with some large hail. So the big headline as we head into the holiday weekend, the day that you really have to pay attention to, could be life-threatening tornadoes, the violent type that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. This area of red, this is a level 4 out of 5. There's even a chance they could upgrade this to a 5 out of 5. This is Oklahoma City to Wichita. These storms will explode about dinner time Saturday evening. They'll continue through the overnight hours. This hatched area is everywhere it's favorable that we could get a violent tornado. And then it will go through the night. And then early Sunday morning, it looks like there's going to be a big, huge windstorm heading through St. Louis, possibly to Indianapolis, and then isolated tornadoes that evening, too. So it's just a lot going on. So that's why everyone has to be weather aware. So here's your Saturday forecast. Just a few showers in the east, nothing too bad. The evening storms are after dark in the middle of the country, and then there's that map for Sunday, Christine. Monday, by the way, a lot of rain on the East Coast, not exactly beach weather, mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, but not violent, severe storms.
Okay, good to know. Bill, thanks so much. That bad weather doesn't look like it's going to stop the almost, 44 million people expected to leave town for Memorial Day weekend. There may be a few setbacks, though. That's because summer travel is having a big rebound. We're talking close to records that haven't been matched for almost 20 years. Most of those travelers are going to be hitting the roads, with more than 87% planning to drive to their holiday weekend destination. Expect roads to be jam-packed with more than 38 million people driving this weekend and another 3.5 million traveling by plane. Antonia Hilton joins me now from nearby the New Jersey Turnpike in beautiful Secaucus, New Jersey. Antonia, you've been watching bumper-to-bumper traffic tonight where you are. These numbers are telling us that not only are we back to pre-pandemic levels, but actually higher.
That's right. According to AAA, a 4% increase over this time last year. Those about 44 million Americans, the vast majority of them waiting in traffic tonight and throughout this weekend, just like the traffic you see behind me here. They're coming into rest stops, trying to get snacks, water, supplies. I've spoken to people who told me they were watching Google Maps change from saying their trip was going to be 4 hours to 6+ hours. And so they're really bracing themselves. Experts tell us that people are trying to get to places like New York to see the Statue of Liberty or Broadway, trying to get to places like Las Vegas or Southern California and Orlando. People are really seeking these entertainment-focused experiences. They're looking for theme parks, and they think that's because coming out of the pandemic, people really are trying to live their lives. They're trying to make the most of these moments that they have. Take a listen to some of the conversations we've had with travelers today.
My hopes for this weekend is that we can just get to places on time. I live in New Jersey, so I'm used to traffic, but I'm just hoping it doesn't get horrible.
How's the traffic looking to you?
Terrible. It's pretty bad. It's just been waiting hours. The time keeps going up. It's pretty bad.
Some officials in the New York and New Jersey area are urging people to consider public transportation or trains. But if you're looking at the Amtrak, there may be some troubles there. In fact, the governor here in New Jersey had to send a letter to Secretary Buttigieg urging the secretary to address some of the infrastructure issues that they're having with the trains here as well. So no matter what you are doing this weekend, frankly, expect some headaches.
Yeah, expect some headaches. All right, one of the big things travelers also have to worry about, another headache, is a real sticker shock, right? Gas, flights, hotel. I mean, gas prices are up a little bit from last year, but they're down from that $5 a couple of years ago. And people seem to be spending no matter what things cost.
That's right. So we're looking at about 7 cents additional. And right now, the average is at about $3.61 a gallon. We've spoken to some people today who were worried about the cost of all that. One young guy who was telling us, you know, I've been talking with my friends about how we're going to split the cost of everything here. And, you know, they've had to have those additional considerations because the hotels are expensive. They're going to be wasting gas as they sit out on the turnpike like this one. And so people are making sure that they think about all of this in advance. That's really the key here. No matter what route you're taking, road or skies, every expert says you need to plan ahead for all of this.
All right, as always, Antonia, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend if I don't see you. Just in the last few hours, Hunter Biden heading out of a federal court in Delaware after getting a partial win from a judge who ruled out some pretty salacious evidence from being included in his upcoming trial on federal gun charges. The judge also saying that other details Hunter Biden didn't want in, those are fair game. Today's hearing setting up a trial that could still air unflattering and, frankly, embarrassing details about the president's son's past struggles with substance abuse. Remember, Hunter Biden was recharged last year by the special counsel who took over that case. Prosecutors say he lied about his drug use on a form while buying a handgun. The gun trial is set to start June 3rd, but he also faces a separate federal tax case in California on charges he failed to pay his taxes over multiple years. NBC's Ken Delanian is outside that courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware. So, Ken, based on the judge's rulings today, what can you tell us about what this trial might look like when it kicks off a little more than a week from now?
Hey, Christine. Well, the judge made clear she expects a 2-week trial. The government said they intend to call 12 witnesses. It's unclear, obviously, at this moment whether Hunter Biden will testify and what kind of case the defense will put on. Today's hearing was a last-ditch attempt to clear up what evidence can and can't be presented in front of the jury. There's some disputes about what evidence should be relevant. And the judge essentially granted each side most of what they were seeking. So, for example, the government is allowed to put on some evidence from Hunter Biden's memoir. They're allowed to use excerpts from all that electronic evidence that was on his infamous laptop and other electronic devices, and that includes thousands of text messages, including with apparent drug dealers and photos and all kinds of evidence there. But they are not allowed to explicitly refer to his quote-unquote extravagant lifestyle, although they are allowed to talk about his drug use. The defense successfully got exclusions on any reference to the California tax case, to his child support battle that's happening in Arkansas, and to the fact that he was discharged from the Navy after testing positive for cocaine. So it's a bit of a draw in terms of what testimony can come on. But again, big picture here, these are very serious charges that stem from the collapse of a plea deal. And so Hunter Biden is now facing 2 separate felony trials where at one point he was ready to plead guilty to a misdemeanor and serve no jail time.
Yeah. Now, Hunter and his legal team often say that there wouldn't be 2 federal cases against him, Ken, if his last name weren't Biden. At the end of the day, how much real trouble is Hunter in between the 2 sets of charges against him?
It's serious, and they may have a point there, but it's also true that there wouldn't be these 2 federal cases if they had just come to an agreement on that plea deal, which a lot of people thought was very favorable to Hunter Biden. No jail time, misdemeanor. And remember, his lawyers decided that there weren't enough guarantees there against possible future prosecutions. But guess what? There aren't any guarantees now, and he's facing, look, in this gun case, the maximum penalty, this will not be the sentence if convicted, but the maximum theoretical penalty, 25 years in prison and 17 years in prison in the tax case. And even if it's 1 year in federal prison and 1 felony conviction, that is a very serious thing for the son of a president. And so he's in very big trouble here after a situation where he could have really sort of walked away with very little trouble. Christine.
Fascinating. Ken Delaney, thanks so much for that. A gang attack in Haiti's capital, leaving an American missionary couple dead, including a woman who was the daughter of a Missouri state lawmaker. The Haitian director of the group they worked for was also killed. Missions in Haiti says the couple seen here and the group's director were killed during a confrontation with gang members that suddenly turned violent. The group confirming the deaths in a Facebook post, saying the group is, quote, devastated. NBC News has not independently confirmed its account of what happened, but missionaries and other foreigners have been frequent targets of the gangs that all but control the capital of Port-au-Prince. The latest killings coming just days before the expected arrival of more than 1,000, Kenyan police officers on an American-backed mission. Gabe Gutierrez is following it for us. It's just a terrible story. You spoke to the mother of one of the victims. What is she saying? What more can you tell us?
Yeah, Christine, I just spoke with her a short time ago, and she really gave us some harrowing details of what happened to her son, Davy Lloyd. And some of those details are hard to listen to, Christine. Apparently yesterday, she actually got a phone call. She picked up her phone from her son, who had already been beaten, she says, by one of those armed gangs that showed up at this compound. Now, this charity, this nonprofit that she founded more than 20 years ago, along with her husband, her son, and his wife, Natalie, which you see right there. They were working at this compound along with another Haitian colleague. Apparently, an armed gang, she says, came to the compound, beat him. They then let him go. They took a lot of their supplies. And then, she says, after the phone call, a second armed gang showed up, and then things got dramatically worse. The building they were in, that second armed gang, she says, came in, shot her son and his wife and their Haitian colleague, and then set the building on fire, Christine. Now, we're just also learning details of this from other family members who have posted on social media, and it's just, the details of this are just harrowing. We sometimes hear of Americans caught in the crossfire in Haiti, but this story with these American missionaries is just very difficult to hear.
It really is. And Kenyan forces could land in Port-au-Prince any day now. What does this attack say, I guess, about what those officers will be up against when they arrive?
Well, certainly. And look, this is the Kenyan forces. It's they're leading a multinational force, part of a broader effort by the UN. But 1,000 police officers are supposed to arrive in Haiti. They were expected to arrive by the end of this week. That has not happened. But we hear from the Biden administration that that is expected to happen soon, and that they've already procured several pieces of equipment, including armored vehicles and radios. But those police forces are supposed to go into Haiti and to try and stabilize the country. The Kenya's president was here in the U.S. for a state visit, just leaving today, trying to talk with U.S. officials. And President Biden specifically reiterated that there would be no American troops on the ground. But right now, there are a lot of questions about how this Kenyan-led force can be able to go up against these armed gangs, Christine.
You know, Gabe, I know you've been to Haiti many times. I've covered the country before over the years. I don't remember a level of lawlessness like this.
which is saying something. It is saying something. About 80% of the capital of Port-au-Prince is right now under the control of these armed gangs. Just until a few days ago, the international airport in Port-au-Prince was shut down, and people that have been watching Haiti for quite some time, really, and it's for decades, they've had issues with violence in that country. And you know, back in the 90s, when the American forces went in to try and keep the peace, then UN peacekeepers came in the 2000s and all the way up until 2017. Following that horrific earthquake. Now there are questions following the assassination of the country's president. Where will this end? When will it end? And will the gangs give up control now that they've had that they control such a large part of the capital city? And will these forces led by Kenya really make a dent in this, Christy?
We'll be watching. Gabe Gutierrez, thank you so much for that. Tonight, Israel weighing the next steps after another world court ordered the country to stand down its assault on the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Here's that moment from the UN's top court earlier today.
Israel must immediately halt its military offensive and any other action in the Rafah governorate which may inflict on the Palestinian group in Gaza conditions of life that could bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part.
Israel's PM meeting with his legal advisors earlier today after the International Court of Justice's ruling came down. Rafah has become the focal point of this war, with Israel calling it Hamas's last stronghold and observers fearing for the hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians still in harm's way there. The ICJ has no way to enforce this ruling, and Israel is expected to basically ignore it. But today's order is just the latest international condemnation of that offensive in Gaza, with a warning from President Biden and arrest warrants sought by a different court so far having no impact on the planned Rafah assault. NBC's Raf Sanchez has more from Tel Aviv.
Today's ruling by the International Court of Justice that Israel must halt its military offensive in Rafah is final and it is binding. So technically, Israel, if it does not comply, is breaching international law. But the court has no enforcement mechanism. That would fall to the UN Security Council, and Israel is hoping that the United States would shield Israel from any international action at that forum. Now, just as that ruling was being read out at the court in The Hague in the Netherlands a little after 9 a.m. Eastern, our team in Gaza says Israeli airstrikes were pounding the Al-Shabura refugee camp, which just underscores that there is not a whole lot of optimism inside Gaza or outside that this ruling will actually impact the war on the ground. In terms of potentially a little legal wiggle room, Israel has been ordered by the court to submit a report 1 month from now explaining how it is complying with today's ruling. Some in Israel feel that as long as the Rafah operation is wrapped up by the time that report is submitted, Israel can say that it is complying, even though the judge was very explicit today that this offensive must end immediately. Israel also saying it has recovered the bodies of 3 hostages from northern Gaza. That's a total of 7 hostage bodies recovered over the last week. One of those found overnight. So Ryan Hernandez, he is was a 30-year-old French-Mexican dual national, and the body of his girlfriend, Shani Luke, was found last week. The two of them were at that Supernova music festival when they were killed. Meanwhile, CIA Director Bill Burns in Europe meeting with the head of the Mossad spy agency as well as the Prime Minister of Qatar. And the hope is that he can revive these badly stalled ceasefire negotiations. But frankly, there is not a whole lot of optimism that these talks, which have not produced a ceasefire, which have not got any hostages out since November, will see a breakthrough now. Back to you.
All right. Our thanks to Raf Sanchez for that reporting. Coming up, the cost of celebrating the unofficial start of summer, how inflation is taking a bite out of your Memorial Day weekend barbecue. Plus, the first comments from Travis Kelce about his teammates' controversial commencement speech, what he said in our 5 Things next. The game has changed literally in college sports with a groundbreaking multi-billion-dollar agreement that will let schools directly pay athletes for the first time ever. It's basically two tracks from this settlement. So let's break this down. The first gives billions of dollars in back pay to tens of thousands of athletes who played starting in 2016. Most of that will go to football and men's basketball players. But the second part is what's going to upend the college sports model altogether, a revenue-sharing deal set to go into effect next year that lets each school split up to $21 million annually among all athletes. In a joint statement, the NCAA and the 5 major conferences say this is a big step to provide clarity across college athletics. Steve Patterson joins me now. Steve, a judge still has to sign off on this, but let's walk through how monumental this is.
Monumental is the word for it, Christina. I think, look, some stories are just stories, and some stories are going to be in somebody's history book at some point. And when I watched you do this story for the Today Show this morning, I said, this is history. This is 100 years of, college athletics being amateur sort of sports based on scholarships, now being turned into something professional. This is student athletes getting a salary, potentially. It is a huge, huge deal. It doesn't really get any bigger than this. It was all heading this way with the NIL deal, with Reggie Bush getting his Heisman back. And then this headline, this forever changes the landscape of sports as we know it. Christine? Now, the NCAA's president, Charlie Barker, says he hopes this settlement will create what he calls a sense of stability in college sports. Stability and college sports historically do not go together. Do experts think this is a step in the right direction? I would stop with a step in the right direction, right? I mean, because this is the first step of what will be inevitably many steps. There are so many considerations to think about with this. None of it has really been ironed out based upon, except for the fact that there will be a payout. The back pay will go to the athletes, 14,000 athletes or so, who say that they were left out of deals after the old rules went away, dating back to 2016. Then there will be this revenue sharing model, which will include $20 million every year for the schools that can opt in to pay that money out to their student athletes. But that introduces like a whole host of other things. Are these student athletes now employees? Is your star quarterback at Ohio State also an employee at Ohio State University? Does that mean he can enter into collective bargaining? Are there salary caps with all of this money? We don't know. And then what does that mean for the other minor schools? We spoke to sort of, obviously, sporting experts who are excited about this. Here's one take. Listen to this.
There are so many more boxes that need to be checked. Congress is still going to want to be involved in this. And again, athletes are going to want to still be involved in this. And you're still going to have this inequality amongst schools and amongst athletes.
And the inequality is vast, men versus women. Do you pay Caitlin Clark as much as you would the star quarterback on your football team that is earning the school all the money? Those things haven't been decided yet. Does it break down into men and women? What about programs that may not bring in the same amount of money, but bring the school prestige, gymnastics and golf and water polo? What happens to that? I think it all depends. It's going to be case by case. A lot of it will get decided in court, especially when it comes to Title IX. But there's so much still to think about. This is the very, very early stages of this. Yeah, it's interesting. He mentioned Congress. Congress may have to get involved. And the NCAA's got a whole bunch of rules to write, to really kind of, make the rules of the road here. Do the schools seem okay with this? It depends on what school you're talking about. I think if you're Ohio State, if you're Michigan, if you're one of these Power 5 powerhouses, $20 million a year is nothing to you. You could pay that and then some, and then have the best team in the country. If you're somebody smaller, if you're Middle Tennessee State, I'm not sure what you know about how this may affect your school. Christine? Yeah, and what teams, maybe you have to pare down some programs and focus on others. We'll have to see how that all shakes out. Steve Patterson, so nice to see you. Thank you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the British neonatal nurse convicted of murdering babies just denied permission to appeal. You might remember Lucy Letby was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison for killing 7 babies and trying to kill 6 others. And this new decision from a panel of judges in the UK comes after a stunning New Yorker investigation just released, questioning whether she did it.
The investigation suggests the trial might have overlooked and misinterpreted evidence. The publication also points out larger problems at that hospital and within the UK's healthcare system. She is set to be retried on one additional count of attempted murder next month. Number two, hundreds of people are feared dead after a massive landslide in Papua New Guinea. Villagers in the remote area where it happened say dozens of homes were simply torn down and families were buried alive. You can see people making their way through the rubble there. Emergency response crews are heading to the area to help. Number three, Travis Kelce is now reacting to that controversial commencement speech from his Kansas City Chiefs teammate Harrison Butker, where Butker said women's most valuable accomplishments happen in the home and called Pride Month a, quote, deadly sin. Kelce talking with his brother Jason about it on their New Heights podcast. Listen.
I can't say I agree with the majority of it or just about any of it outside of just him loving his family and his kids.
It comes after Patrick Mahomes just 2 days ago said he, quote, doesn't necessarily agree with some of the things Butker said, but called him a, quote, great person. Number four, the dog at the center of a super popular meme and the face of the cryptocurrency Dogecoin has died. You'll remember she became a true sensation years ago. Remember when a photo her owner posted went viral and then got put onto a coin? Her owner, a teacher in Japan, said she died in her sleep. Several outlets reported she was 18 years old. Number five, given a new meaning to seeing red, super rare red pineapples are here. Well, at one Southern California store, at least, Ruby Glow pineapples are red on the outside, yellow on the inside. It took like 16 years of research to create them. Only 5,000 are going to be available worldwide this year. That California store already sold out after charging nearly $400 each. The unofficial kickoff to summer with lots of people planning cookouts and stores pushing holiday sales. But inflation is keeping some people on a tighter budget this holiday weekend, with recent surveys showing more than half of consumers don't plan to spend more than $100 on food and drinks for cookouts this weekend. Brian Chung is here to break it all down for us. Brian, walk us through some of the facts and figures, what people are expected to spend this weekend, and what are some ways to save, Brian?
Hey, Christine, well, it is the unofficial start to summer, and a lot of people are going to be buying stuff for the cookout. But, of course, with inflation pinching wallets, it's important to remember prices have changed pretty dramatically for some categories, like, for example, ground beef. Check this out, up 6% compared to this time last year. So some potential substitutes. Well, fish and seafood prices have gone down over 2% over that period of time, and chicken prices are up only 0.7%. Another potential substitute there. Cookies are going to get a little bit cheaper compared to this time last year, down 0.3%. But alcohol, if people are trying to get some kegs, for example, that's going to be up almost 2% compared to last year. And if anyone's trying to go to a baseball game this weekend, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Check this out. On average, up over 15%. Now, of course, this is also a holiday for a lot of sales out there for people just trying to do some shopping. A number of stores advertising 70% off at Kohl's, 25% off headphones at Amazon, 50% off patio garden sets at Target. Walmart, you're seeing discounts on camera sets in addition to 60% off outdoor furniture at Macy's. So there's deals across the board for this Memorial Day weekend. But again, you have to be strategic to make sure you're getting the best deal out there.
Absolutely. And we need to talk about the true meaning of the holiday, though. It's not consumerism. It's honoring men and women in the military who lost their lives serving this country. You have some numbers to share with us about that, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Christine. Again, people are going to be cooking out. They're going to be buying stuff. But again, the point of this holiday is remembrance for our troops. It was really formalized in the 1800s to honor the 20,000 Civil War soldiers that are buried at Arlington National Cemetery. It was officially recognized as a federal holiday 53 years ago. There are 5.3 million people buried across our national cemeteries in this country, including the largest one, which is in California, over 1,200 acres there. And again, one big number I've got for you here, over 2 million current military members. Again, we're celebrating those that are protecting our country in addition to those who have lost their lives protecting our country. Something really important to remember on this Memorial Day, Christine.
Absolutely critical context, as always. Brian Chung, thank you so much. Still ahead this hour, we're getting breaking news out of New Mexico. The judge in the Rust case ruling on Alec Baldwin's motion to dismiss. That's after the break. We want to bring you some breaking news now with a judge in New Mexico just denying Alec Baldwin's motion to dismiss the charges against him in the Rust movie set shooting back in October of 2021 that resulted in the death of the movie cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Remember, Baldwin is facing an involuntary manslaughter charge, which he is pleading not guilty to. Elwin Lopez joining me now. Elwin, what more do we know?
Hey, Christine, we've been waiting for this decision, a decision to be made all week, and now it's coming down right before Memorial Day weekend. And a lot of people are shocked about this because there was a lot of talk about this being thrown out altogether. And again, this comes a week after attorneys on both sides got into a heated hearing. You could hear Baldwin's team saying, listen, this was prosecutorial misconduct. This needs to be thrown out. They were accusing the prosecutors of doing things like preventing the grand jury to speak and interview some of the witnesses. But now we're here. We didn't know exactly if Baldwin would be facing trial in July. And now we know that he is. And he is going to face that trial just in a few months. So this comes as a shock to a lot of people. But it came down today right before Memorial Day weekend. And we know that this will not give Baldwin's team time really to file any motion before Tuesday. So as of right now, this is what's happening. It is developing currently. And again, a huge shock to a lot of people, Christine.
All right, Elwin Lopez, thank you for that. NBC covers hundreds of international stories every day, and because it's tough to read, watch, or listen to all of them, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment that we call The Global. In Russia, the spy chief there says more than 20 people have been arrested over that deadly concert hall attack near Moscow back in March. More than 140 people were killed. ISIS claims responsibility for the attack. Russia's spy chief blames Ukraine for it, something Ukraine denies, but he also says ISIS coordinated the actual attack, according to Russian media. From Spain, at least 4 people are now dead after a building with an outdated structure collapsed in Majorca. The fire chief says the collapse was caused by an excess weight on the structure. Apparently, there are still 8 people in the hospital because of that incident. And in Italy, the first millennial saint declared by the Catholic Church, the saint who died at 15 years old after battling leukemia, used to document miracles online. They called him God's influencer. Now, Pope Francis recognizes another miracle linked to the blogger, making him a saint. This comes as the Catholic Church struggles to keep young people involved over the last few years. To tonight's original now, with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. Families of active duty military members lost in the line of duty are given death benefits like funds to help pay for the funeral. The program leaves out one group, the more than 20,000 young men and women enrolled in ROTC programs at colleges across the country. NBC's Ali Vitale spoke with the families of fallen cadets and trainees on how they're trying to change that.
Jessica Swan's daughter, Mackenzie, felt like her miracle baby.
She was an amazing person. She's kind, loves science. She wanted to be a scientist her whole life.
In high school, Mackenzie joined the Reserve Officer Training Corps, or ROTC.
She had a phenomenal experience in high school, so she continued that in college.
On a cadet development exercise in June 2022, Mackenzie got into a Humvee with fellow cadets.
Basically said, go have fun.
The driver was not trained. Going over the speed limit, the vehicle spun, then flipped, killing Mackenzie.
You're living every parent's worst nightmare, and then adding to it immense financial strain.
Expenses piled up, burial cost, missed work, legal proceedings are still ongoing. Jessica lost the home she'd been renting.
So there we were on the 1-year anniversary of her death, just like scrambling, trying to find any resemblance of consistency, of stability.
Families of active duty service members lost in the line of duty receive a death gratuity of $100,000. Families of ROTC cadets, like Jessica, get nothing. Manny Vega's been on a mission to change that. A Marine veteran himself, Manny's 21-year-old son, Patrick, dreamed of serving. He died 10 days into basic training from, the family says, complications of the common cold and poor medical care.
As a service-disabled veteran who carries a medal that says heroism, to have the Marine Corps fail my son, because they did, they failed my son, and to fail his family, I'm very conflicted. It's very painful. And just the coldness of the culture is what really upsetting.
Patrick died at boot camp, so the Vegas got their death gratuity, unlike Jessica. The coverage gaps moved Manny to turn grief into action, starting Save Our Service members, pushing for policy change and supporting other families who suffered losses like his.
What was it like finding the community that Manny was able to build?
It's been life-saving.
As a Marine, you're taught to take care of your own. You never don't leave anybody behind.
Democratic Congressman Salud Carbajal was taught the same and served with Vega. This is something that you are keenly aware of from a policy perspective, but also from a personal perspective, right?
Absolutely.
He teamed up with fellow veteran Republican Michael Waltz.
He, once upon a time, also served in the ROTC program. I served in the delayed entry program. We know personally what these gaps can do in terms of not provide to the families of those service members who die in service and sacrifice, what it does to their families.
We're facing a recruiting crisis, as we're facing a retention crisis. If families find out that they're not covered, oh, wait a minute, my son or daughter is about to go jump out of planes, but they don't get the types of benefits that every other military member does.
The lawmakers' bill, included in an annual national defense package that's not yet passed Congress, would partly correct the oversight, authorizing payment of a death gratuity and providing casualty assistance to families of ROTC cadets that die in sanctioned training events.
What does it feel like knowing that changes are coming, hopefully?
I feel like she didn't die in vain if it helps somebody else.
What's it going to feel like to get to call Manny and say, we got this done?
It's going to be very meaningful to me.
I'm so grateful to those families for sharing those stories, all in the name of policy change for the better. Here in Congress, the push is ongoing to have broader benefits applied to a wider group of military service members who are lost in the line of duty, to make sure their families have access to those benefits. The goal right now is to do it in this National Defense Authorization Package, but both lawmakers involved in this fight right now say to them it underscores the need to have more veterans serving in this body. Back to you.
That's a wrap for this coverage this hour. Coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.